Welcome to the Movie Business Podcast, picking up where Movie Business Book left off. I'm Jason Squire, hosting a wide range of industry talent and executives to answer fundamental questions about the business today. Here we go. And the secrets of casting are revealed by ALYSSA WEISBERG, an Emmy and Artios award-winning casting director with over 90 credits in features and television. These include Star Trek Beyond for director Justin Lin, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and Tomorrowland for Brad Bird. Projects for J.J. Abrams including Super 8, Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and having finished 11817 for Louis Leterrier and SPACEBALLS 2, produced by and starring Mel Brooks. Welcome, ALYSSA.
Hi, so nice to be chatting with you, Jason.
Well, I'm so glad you're here on the Movie Business Podcast. So tell us, what are the secrets of casting?
Well, I don't know if this is so much a secret, but I think that what a lot of people don't realize is how much effort and really how much passion goes into casting directors, not just finding talent, but also how much we curate actors' auditions and materials to put them forward, in the best light to directors, producers, and the studio, or sometimes financiers and sales agents in the case of indie films. Like, there are many days where I'm up at 3:00 in the morning or nights pulling clips from actors' previous performances or editing auditions that might highlight them in the best way for the particular project that I'm working on. So, for example, if I'm doing a comedy and I reach out to an actor's reps to send me their reel to go along with an audition, or if they're offer only and they send me a reel that has mostly dramatic clips, I'll search for more appropriate clips or even interviews that they've done where I can showcase them in a more comedic light.
Wow. So this really helps. And in a little while, we'll get into the actual workflow that you're starting to describe. Let's back up just a little bit and ask,
Sure.
How do you track talent? I mean, it's everywhere and always renewed, always new people, always new projects.
Always.
And you handle it. It's not overwhelming. I mean, you have been doing this and it's a gift.
Oh, it's overwhelming.
Okay.
But I love it. I mean, it's something that I eat, drink, breathe, and sleep casting. It's something I'm tracking and also searching for talent 24/7. I use a program called Squire, which is not new, but hasn't been around as long as IMDb. And every time I come across a performer who I've recently seen and don't know as well or don't know at all, whether I see them in a play or TV or in a film, I add them to my personal database and search them online to find more material so I can educate myself on them. I'm also able to add special skills to their profile, which can come in handy when I'm doing searches for future projects. If I need someone who can play the guitar or sing or do aerial arts or, anything, I'm always on the search for new talent, watching international films, going to plays, college showcases, which a lot of them now since the pandemic have been presenting them digitally, which is great. So I can see way more. I'm just constantly reading the trades and on IMDb Pro, many times a day to keep up to date with who's doing what. I've also been really lucky in my career to have been able to do numerous open casting calls and have met some great talent that way. I met Michael Pena at an open casting call for the TV series Dangerous Minds, and that was in 1996. He was still in Chicago and came in for our open casting call. And I just did this movie last year that the wonderful Louis Leterrier directed, 11817. We did a huge search for children to play the kids of Wagner Moura and Greta Lee. So we were looking for something very specific. And the kids had to age 5 years in the film. The first half, they're really young, and then we have teenagers. And these were major leading roles. We had to cast, so there were 4 kids that we had to cast to not only match up to the parents, but also each other. And we spent so much time. I mean, my associate lives in New York, and she was going up to people on the subway asking if they wanted to audition. So we got to meet kids from all over the world Fortunately, we couldn't cast all the kids that we loved, but there were a bunch that had no previous credits, never even thought about acting before, but their parents told them about it and they were excited, and they became passionate about it, and we referred them to agents, and now they're booking other projects.
Well, it's so important, and this is just to emphasize what you've said, that the enthusiasm and hunger and focus for your specialty mirrors the same feelings and process of all key talent who work on a movie, the department heads, in front of the camera,
100%.
behind the camera. It's just endless. And this, of course, is what film students are doing themselves, we all hope, in order to really absorb what's going on out there, because it's constantly changing, constantly changing.
It is. It is. And I find like all the other departments, like what everyone else does, fascinating too. And I've been so lucky, not so much on indie films, but on the big films like Mission Impossible and Star Trek, to be in weekly production meetings. So I get to see what the other departments have been doing as well, because we all kind of present like a show and tell on like a weekly basis.
Wow.
And I find that fascinating.
Well, very good. Let's turn now to the workflow of casting. Let's say on an independent feature, what happens first? How do you get the gig?
Well, for me, it's getting the gig. I mean, I get a lot of calls about indie films that don't have their financing. A lot have first-time directors, and they want, Timothée Chalamet and Leonardo DiCaprio to star in their films. Not very realistic. But I think unless a film's already financed, I'm really having to become a cheerleader to have to sell the film to agents and managers to get them behind a project, because generally the bigger agencies don't assign covering agents for indie films, especially if they're not financed. When I read an indie film script, I have to be passionate about it to jump on board, because I know that it's going to be a lot of work, and that, we're generally going to have to get names attached to get the film's financing greenlit to get it released. Mm-hmm. So when I first start on an indie that doesn't have greenlit financing, I'll read a script first, or some are even just treatments. I'll always meet with the director to see if I can help him with his vision and how we get along before I agree to jump onto something.
Again, emphasizing it's a very personal business, and intuition
Yes.
is important, and the subtleties of just playing well with others, because all of these processes are intimate and delicate. And so you're also a diplomat. Well, now let's assume that the financing is in place and your deal is in place. And you're going about what you described earlier of making lists of potential performers for much of the cast, correct?
Right. So sometimes an indie film will come to me that already has a name or two attached. Sometimes there's no one attached. And sometimes if the financing is there, if there's no names attached, generally the financing is not fully there. They might know who's going to finance the film, but they do need a name or two to satisfy what the financiers are putting into the budget, so they know that they can make their money back, hopefully make their money back. So regardless if a film is financed or not, I will make lists for the lead roles, because obviously we need to cast those first, and then have conversations with my director, and producers will always chime in as well to discuss who's on their wish list, who I see in the roles, and we'll discuss top choices and who would mean something for the financiers to say yes to. Sometimes we need just one name, sometimes it's two or three. It largely depends on the genre of the film and the budget of the film. Doing a horror film, sometimes you don't need as big of a names because the genre sells itself.
Right.
But certainly for like comedies and for other genres, most financiers want a bankable name.
Now, once there is a commitment and the performer and the director and no doubt the producer are all approved to move forward, who negotiates the deal and who are the people on both sides of that discussion?
I'm always involved. It depends on the budget of the film. Sometimes with lower budget indies, like say something that's like a 3 to 5 million, I'll have a larger hand in negotiating the deal. Sometimes if it's a production company that has in-house business affairs or the financier wants to negotiate it, they'll negotiate the deal. It's different for every project.
Oh, that does make sense.
Yeah. And it's different. There are some indie films paying scale to everyone. And it depends on the budget of the film and who the actor is.
So in this phase, have there been surprises? Something like, gee, that agent on the other side is much tougher than he or she should be. And this is not coming together properly, which tells you perhaps that the performer really doesn't want to do it. Does that come up?
It's never really a surprise. I think that there are actors who will sign on to movies that they're not passionate about for the money, if there's money there. But generally what I found with indie films is that the actor really has to want to do the film, because they're generally not making their studio quote to do an indie film. So it's got to be something that they feel connected to a role, connected to the director, connected to the script, that hopefully will be a career-defining role for them. Mm-hmm. There has to be something beyond just what they're getting paid.
And when is the job done for you on a given independent picture? The deals are in, the picture is shooting?
Yeah, I mean, we're generally, once the film is shooting, I'm generally done. I mean, there's some films where if I'm doing local, if the film is being shot in Los Angeles and I'm casting day players, they might add a role or two here and there while they're filming. But with indie films, that's unlikely. That happens more with studio films for me. Most of the work for me on indie films really comes before the film, and especially casting the leads, before the film is 100% greenlit. And, sometimes I found it helpful to get the top agencies behind an unfinanced indie that's not yet greenlit, is to bring my director and producers in for an in-person meeting. So we can pitch the film and get them excited about it and discuss who we love for it, and then get them to tell us who they have that's available that, might consider doing it as well.
Wow, that sounds terrific. That sounds very persuasive. So let me ask, in your experience, is there a casting epiphany where something unexpected in a good way occurs?
I'm always pleasantly surprised, sometimes by actor performances, someone who comes in and just blows me away that I didn't initially think would be perfect for a role. That's always pleasantly surprising for me. Oh. And on the other side, I also try, I think for me, like an epiphany has been to just try and not take things so personally, because as a casting director, I'm so passionate. I want everyone to get that I auditioned to get the role, right. Or that I have on my list. I think everyone's great. And there are reasons outside of just a performance or an audition that studios will make decisions on who to cast. Sometimes it's more about marketing. Sometimes it's studio politics. Sometimes they see an actor, a film doesn't do well, and they not blame the actor for the film's failure, but say, we want to get someone else for this role. What I've learned for myself is just not to take things personally, and things happen because they happen.
Yes. Let me turn to your advice for someone who wants to work in casting. What do you say?
I would say first and foremost, you have to have a love for actors and a love for the performing arts in general. Like, watch everything, go see live theater. Don't be afraid to ask questions, reach out to casting directors and have a conversation, and really have a point of view. Start making lists of actors you love. When I was first started as an intern, and this was before IMDb or even everyone had computers and cell phones, I would sit in a movie theater with a notebook and a pen that had a flashlight at the end of it and write down names as quickly as I could of actors I didn't already know when I was watching the credits. And there were a lot of them when I first started.
Wow.
You just have to keep educating yourself. And also advice would be that you just need to know, for someone who wants to get into casting, that, and most other departments in this business, that it can be very fast paced and you need to be okay with multitasking and sometimes working long hours. And I think a lot of people don't realize that is like the kind of hours that we put in and how much detailed work goes into it. Good. You have to love it. You have to really, really want to do this and love it.
Oh. Very good. Really good advice. And everything you've described came to the fore during the latest Oscar presentations because for the first time an Oscar was presented to casting directors. And they handled it beautifully, I thought, and it really elevated the profession to the level that it deserves.
It still brings tears to my eyes every day. Like, I'm so thrilled. And for all of the amazing casting directors who worked tirelessly to make this happen and fought so hard, I will be forever grateful. And it's amazing that we're finally getting this recognition. It's been years and years and years.
Well, congratulations. And let's also point out the idea, if you're interested in focusing on casting as a career, just to repeat for emphasis, the idea of creating your own lexicon of performers and recognizing them and understanding it. All this can be done so much more easily online than back in the analog period.
It's so easy to search for actors and find early performances. Go on sites like Canopy, and even PBS has like old performances, theatrical performances, and like great performances. And there's ways to get the library digitally and just figure out who you love and get to learn new actors. I mean, for me, I get to learn about new actors every day. I'm always seeing someone in a foreign film, an international film, or in a play that I have like hundreds and hundreds of playbills with people circled, and then I add them to my database. There's so many great opportunities.
And again, to emphasize, this is very personal, intuitive and creative. You're basically finding your own way, and you have a treasure trove of references and faces and people. Let me turn to what I guess will be the last question, sadly. What's your prognosis for casting and also the impact of AI?
Oh, gosh. I really hope that AI does not impact us in a negative way. I do see it impacting background casting a lot now, which is really unfortunate because so many of those actors who were working background in movies and TV all the time are now, a lot of them are not working as regularly as they used to. As far as prognosis for casting, I really hope that a lot more production will be brought back to Los Angeles and there'll be more work here. I've got to stay positive about that.
Right.
I have not had a project, film or TV, that has filmed in the United States since 2021.
Wow.
Everything I've done has been Canada, UK, and Australia. So for me, I'm still casting the leads. And I'm still involved in casting of the local roles and casting co-stars, but I do miss seeing my go-to co-stars that I used to when I was doing episodic television or indie films that were shooting here, studio films that were shooting here. Those actors that I would see all the time, I don't get to see them in an audition. I, obviously watch them still, but a lot of them are not working as much as they used to because a lot of production has shifted away from Los Angeles. My hope is that more production's brought back here.
Yes.
I really want to see those actors working more.
Exactly. Let's echo that. It really is a profile of the challenging times that the Los Angeles area is facing involving entertainment, and we hope for the best. But, this has been a wonderful session about casting with ALYSSA WEISBERG. Thank you so much, ALYSSA, for being a guest.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it was so much fun. Thanks again, ALYSSA.
Of course.